Hi, this is Dr. Brad. We are continuing our consult with Rebecca and Scott. Today we're going to finish this off. This has been a real treat, a real different podcast in that we're doing a whole family consult together with Lyme disease and a whole bunch of other complications that are pretty much out of the box. So this isn't a generic one at all. And you're going to see how everything really ties together with this. So jump in and let's enjoy this. This is Your Health Reclaimed, where we expose the roots, causes that fuel Lyme and chronic illness so you can finally heal. We help you understand and heal the root cause of Lyme and chronic illness so you can reclaim your health and restore your life. I'm Dr. Brad, veteran functional medicine doctor, and we're the doctor that has people come to us from all over the world now that have been to multiple doctors over a long period of time. This one consult is one of those cases where they never got any help and we get them healthy again.
You think because back then, too, naturally, like people traveled by horse, so they didn't go everywhere. You were in a smaller local community, probably having a lot of the same microbes and same issues with different like bacterias and viruses and stuff. Do you think that like when you travel often and you're all over the world and the country and your kids from infancy are with you, that's hard on their bodies?
That completely depends. My wife ran into a article a little while ago. A lady was on the planes. One of the stewardess come in a foreign country. One of the stewardess comes through and says, "Everybody cover your face. We're going to fumigate the cabin." She gets up. She goes, "What? We're going to fumigate it for insects." And she goes, "I got multiple chemical sensitivities. I need to talk to somebody in charge." She ends up talking to the pilot and he canceled it. But in foreign flights, it is required to spray the entire cabin with insecticides. Insecticides are all neurotoxins. They're some of the worst that's out there that you can have. And it's just not good. And I didn't know that till a little while ago. I've been all over the world. Last time I went anywhere was Australia. I got hit with the foreign shedding from the vaccines, and you talk about wiping you out. That stuff's bad. It's way, way worse than what we have over here. So it depends on how old they are. My kids grew up going with me down in Mexico, doing ministry trips. Sometimes several times a year. That was when they were young till they left the house, pretty much. So it really depends on a whole bunch of different factors, where you're going, what the situations are. It opens your eyes for sure. But as far as living in a bubble, the tick checks, having your socks over the top of your pants, not running around outside in short pants, or keeping your grass cut so it's short. There's those are different things that are really practical. Food supply, you just be wise about it and understand that's there. Does that answer your question?
Yes, medium rare meats and healthy.
Okay. So you look at the bulk of your symptoms on top of that. That's hormone dysregulation. There was one in the family with vaginal itching, symptoms with that. Commonly, that's not vaginal. The front wall of a woman's reproductive tract is the urethra.
Mm-hmm.
And the urethra is where you will empty out oftentimes the unprocessed toxins of the body. That'll inflame the urethra, and that's mistaken as vaginal issues oftentimes. Although with the history of what's going on, the flora inside a woman's reproductive tract is basically the same as in her colon. And if there's problems in the colon, which there obviously are in your family's case, then that can bring that. Also, toxicity is also another one. That's obviously a case in the household also. So there's a bunch of different factors that can be there, but it's highly likely that's more urethral.
Okay. Well, in the case of the kids, obviously they have all the things we've handed down to them, but they have always been on a whole food diet since they were little, and like, we've always scrubbed for, like, they get organic, and we still wash off the pesticides, and um our environment is extremely clean. Like, even the paint on the walls is no VOC. So I have a harder time sometimes, like, I know how I grew up, and I don't know everything about how he grew up, but it's hard to think that our kids would have such high toxicity when we go like the extra mile to prevent that.
Okay, but this is what sets the stage. A child, when they're birthed normally, as they go down the birth canal, they pick up the woman's flora, and that's what sets the stage for their life. If yours wasn't ever fixed, they've got that pathological flora that's been there for at least 3 generations.
Okay.
And that has to be restored and fixed so that it doesn't pass. And once you do that and you heal the gut, fix the flora issues, fix the dietary issues, then those things just go away. But the stage is set because of generations of history. And you bring up a point. A lot of people think that they can do a few things like change their diet and be healthy. The gut's probably the hardest organ in the body to heal. The lining is 1 cell layer thick. It replaces itself every 24 hours. And the lining of your gut's microvilli is like hold your fingers up in front of your face. The fingers represent your microvilli. That secretes a mucus. The flora lives in the mucus, the gaps in between that, and just a little layer over the top. Whenever you got chronic inflammatory issues, those microvilli, they atrophy, and they can go down to looking like your knuckles in as little as 24 hours. It takes very, very little time at all to do that. When you birth children with this and pathological flora, you pass all that on. And you can't heal all that by changing the diet. Diet's a big part of things, but it won't heal that gut wall. You got to be really specific in doing it, and it takes way longer to heal the gut than it does to deal with Lyme disease. Lyme disease, we just did a 30-day reevaluation of someone that had Lyme disease for about 25 years, been to multiple docs, spent an insane amount of money with zero help whatsoever. And inside of 30 days, the Lyme is like 80% reduced. The babesia is about 60. The strongest strain, the lighter strains, is about 60%. The stronger strains about 50%. So you can do that really quick, but with that person, it's going to take at least 6 months to heal the gut. And the Lyme and all the other things would be long gone with that. And that's just the way we're designed. And almost nobody's dealing with that. You
So
look at all
once
them.
you heal the gut, so like in chiropractic, we always say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So once you've got the gut, so to speak, back online, as long as you're not threatening it with major things, it should be a little easier to keep it good than it is to correct it when it's bad.
Yeah, you really don't need to do anything other than maintain a really clean, healthy lifestyle, and it'll stay good. It's when you introduce it with super high stress, any kind of medicine, NSAIDs, antibiotics, steroids, antifungals, just a huge list of pharmaceuticals all destroy that. Food intolerances will do that. So as long as you know how to manage your foods and you keep in a clean lifestyle with clean water and all that, you're good. You can mess it up by doing something, but if you catch it early, it doesn't take nearly as long to bring it back. It's just when you let it go to the point of where it's really broken. And with all this going on, all the toxicity dysregulates all the hormones. So there you have all the psycho-emotional issues, you got all the hormonal things, you have cycles being irregular and creating all kinds of different problems just because all the hormones are just sideways because of what's going on with toxicity in the gut and all that. And as you heal all that up, the hormones heal themselves and everything restores. So thyroid tends to come back one of the first as far as the hormones, and that's really good news for you. The adrenals are what set the stage for all the sexual hormones. blood sugar regulation, all that. They're slower than the thyroid. They're smaller than the thyroid, and they have 11 jobs instead of one. So it stands to reason that it's going to take longer to do that. The sexual hormones heal as adrenals heal. So all that comes along. As far as Scott, where the knee goes, we got to figure out what's at the stage for this, whether you got ACL issues. Most of the issues that go on with the meniscus, there's a ligament on the outside of the meniscus called the coronary ligament. And as far as the residual symptoms, that's usually what the problem is, not just a tear in the meniscus. You can heal the meniscus. You can heal a lot of things. It's the ligaments that are lax that allows the knee to crash around that tear things. And there's rehab things that can be done to make the muscles take up the slack for what those weak ligaments are. I've injured my left knee really bad 3 times. I mean, really bad. And I used to be extreme skier. After the 3rd time I did it, my ski would wander back and forth like 20 degrees, just no control whatsoever. I used skiing to rehab mine, and it was just rock solid. I could go back to skiing however I want, see me a half mile away. My style is so radically different. You can tell who I am a half mile away. I've taught a ton of people to ski in a very unorthodox way of teaching them, but I can get somebody skiing on their own in generally less than half a day. So, that's me. And that's my own story with a knee that was just out of control, just totally out of control. And you'd never know that was the case. Absolutely never. So knees, shoulders are 2 things that I've kind of specialized in for a long period of time. So we just got to figure out what the problem is and then address that.
I don't think I put out my intake paperwork because I don't really know if it asked, but I've dislocated my left shoulder a number of times over and over and over again. But it's been a long time since this happened.
So you did what a number of times over and over?
Dislocated my left shoulder.
Okay, that could be looked at too. Can figure out what.
It's pretty good now. I take it easy with certain ranges of motion.
Yeah. It's really interesting. There, the principles of orthopedic stuff, they try and hide it in hieroglyphics, but it's actually pretty simple once you understand how to make it work. And there's always ways to address those. Always.
Awesome.
So after a whole bunch of years of construction, I destroyed my right shoulder. I couldn't even throw a ball to my son more than a few times, and my shoulder just be wrecked. I couldn't use it. But you learn how to do things. It depends on what all goes on with those things. So looking at all of this stuff, everything ties together, and that's what I'm trying to say. It all ties together primarily from gut dysfunction that allows for the infections like Lyme disease to bloom and grow and all that. That's where the toxicity comes from that creates all of the rashes, the hormonal dysfunction, and everything else. And once you deal with all that stuff, it all just resolves and goes away. So Lyme disease typically takes an average 6 to 8 weeks to get rid of it. H. pylori, usually 6 weeks. If Clostridia is an issue, that's 7 to 10 days. There's Babesia divergent, the average is about 4 months. Other strains about 3. Candida's got 4 different types as far as that goes, where that grows, and that gets systemic when all this goes on. You got a yeast form. Almost all your Candida cleanse programs are trying to deal with the yeast form. It's the easiest to get rid of, and it's the one that gives all the visual symptoms that go on. The fungal side is harder. The fungal parasite, if you look at mold or if you look at fungus in a microscope, mold, you see all this fuzz coming off of it. That's mycelia. That's the feeding tubules. All the cell walls in all the forms of Candida are chitin. Chitin is impervious to the immune system. The immune system can't touch it. It's a normal gut flora that keeps that in check. So once you wipe out the gut flora, it can do whatever you want. When those mycelia, those feeding tubules, pierce the gut wall, which is only 1 cell layer thick and break off, they can float anywhere in the body and create a new colony.
Hmm.
So that's what a fungal parasite is. And mold is just mold and fungus. They morph back and forth depending on what food source is. Mold usually doesn't grow inside of us as mammals. There's a few rare cases where people's environment, like their houses or where they work, things like that, are real moldy, and it might grow inside of the nose where the filters start, the sinuses, or maybe in the lungs, but it's usually more in the sinuses and in the nose where that happens, because it's just not a case. When mold is a big issue, then it's usually from influx coming on the outside, and it's the spores that are where the toxins come from. So once we do an evaluation, we know mold's a bunch of an issue. If it is, we find out where the mold is, give remediation issues that are a fraction of what other people do, and we can resolve that. But I don't think that's so much the case with you guys. So looking at all this stuff, it's gonna take at least 6 months to deal with you two. Your daughter, and your son might get just under that, but it's going to be darn close to that anyway. And with our normal program with stuff, we work with things like doing a 6-month program that's doing full evaluations with all the labs. We do all our own work with that. On day one, so we know everything that's going on, how we need to get people to eat, what they need to drink and all that to be well. Weekly care for an average about 6 weeks. And after that, it's every couple of weeks. Sometimes we can stretch it farther than that. We do reevaluation every month. If you go someplace else, our evaluation, just getting the lab information, you drop over $9,000 and not have half of the information we have with our evaluations. Mark Hyman, #1 functional medicine doc in the world, his extensive testing for an incoming patient is 100 tests, or 4.5 times that.
Yeah, I just actually did Mark Hyman's 100 tests in March.
Yeah, and they won't tell you a fraction of what I'm looking for. They just won't. They can't. Lyme test is $3,500 for a good one, and is 0 to 20% accurate. So, by the end of 6 months of care, you're talking over $50,000 in labs plus all the care and everything else. My cost for doing that is $7,500. I said when I work with families, I can reduce that. I'd take a third off of that working you guys. So if we added all that, that'd be like $30,000 to do everything. If we do everybody together, we knock 10 off of that, do it for 20, the whole household. And the kids would probably be done by that. You, Rebecca, we might have to do a little bit of cleanup. Scott might be done too. A lot of it depends on how strict you stay with your food stuff, because that's half of what the deal is. And we'll have to go through your cupboards and figure out what else clean. You brought some of your grains last time I saw you, and some of those were a surprise to you, not to me, because that's pretty consistent.
So just for clarity's sake, no rare beef.
It's really not a wise thing, because you don't have, first of all, your H. pylori, if it's anything like anybody else's, it's going to be really high. You don't create very much stomach acid, and that's the first barrier protection with food, is the stomach acid. It kills the bacteria. That's going to be too low, and it's going to slip right through, get it to the rest of your system.
Well, the other concern is, even if Scott was eating it and he had higher acid in his stomach and his body could handle it, but he's living in the same house as everyone else and their bodies can't.
Well, if you think about it this way, when you look at, I know a woman who keeps saying your husband's really good, but he's completely dysfunctional. He's extremely overweight, and he doesn't want anybody else to heal because he doesn't want to have that accountability of anything that's on there. When you look at, from a biblical perspective, a husband, he sacrifices everything for his family, and his family comes first. It's really interesting. I grew up in one of the most dysfunctional households you could ever grow up in. I never saw a functional dad anywhere. And when the Lord told me to get married, I go, where's my example, what I follow? And he told me, don't worry about it, I'll teach you myself. And he had me raise my kids different than anybody I've ever seen. And everything that I desired, I just set aside. I taught all my kids to ski, and we started off cross-country skiing, and we did things. I made stuff fun, and you do things to protect the household, which is really a sacrificial role. It's kind of interesting. You look at Joseph and Mary. Joseph was a very, very sacrificial man, which really gave Mary a whole bunch of rest because he listened to the angels. He listened to the word of God rather than his own heart and all the social pressures that are out there. And he walked contrary to everyone else's belief systems, everyone else's agenda. And he kept Mary, who's pregnant, and he knew he didn't get her pregnant. And in everybody's mind, somebody had to. I heard of one time where a girl got pregnant by her brother, and they figured out what happened is he ejaculated in the tub. It didn't get washed out, and she went and took a bath. Okay, that's rare. That's extremely, extremely rare. And it's like, wow, that's kind of out of the box. But for a young virgin, you don't have that kind of thing going on and all that. And you got to hear the word of God to really be able to say, okay, this is who you designed to be my wife. And this is the Son of God inside of her. I might not be able to wrap my head around that, but I'll accept that. You guide me, you direct me. I'm going in fear from here forward. And that's where you have the healthiest households. My wife has a lot more food restrictions than I do. I just eat the way that she needs to. It just makes life a whole bunch easier. We cook together. I cooked since I was 5 years old because I had to manage my own health. So, there's all these different aspects that are there with everybody. And it's when you have intolerances and chronic health issues, you need to set the stage where you manage the most sensitive people as a whole, as a family. And you just shop that way, you cook that way, you eat that way for everybody rather than everybody doing something different.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And we both appreciate that you are, we love having a doctor who is so biblically based and following, God and not just his own pride and ego and ideas, So it's a combination of your knowledge and understanding with what he is, told you to follow. So we appreciate that because it's just rare in doctors to have a doctor who is bringing God into all of the equation.
Yeah, he's the one that empowers us. He's the one that shows us what's going on. He's the one that showed us how to do what we do. And that's why our results are, you think about it, for natural doc to beat every single specialist around the world in every case they've shared for 4 decades is like, that's impossible. And we have over 90% resolution of cases that have been going on oftentimes for decades, have seen the best specialists all over the world with no help. We have over a 90%, it's like 95% of those people, we get well and healthy again. And the ones that don't are ones that don't follow instructions. Bless you. Yeah, so now you're double blessed. That's statistically impossible. That's all God.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And we're fortunate to have found you and looking forward to working through this stuff.
Yeah. So, if you want, we could start evaluating the rest of the family this week, and just start getting everybody on the same page.
I'm waiting on him to make the decision, but yeah.
So what do you think?
Yeah, I thought we were already doing it.
I think my Tuesday afternoon's pretty free, and I think a lot Thursday is so we can start Tuesday afternoon. And I'm going to need first morning catch of urine on ice with everybody you got 3 sources of water before your filter, after your filter, and then you treat it with something.
Yeah.
Bring those with you, store those so we can test everybody on it, and we'll just jump in. We're going to know by the time we're done where we need to start, and then we may need to get through some of your foods in the household, because that's a big factor.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So do you want to contact me about times? Because we've got myself and Scott and Elena who still need the consult, and then we've got Elijah's regular appointment this week.
Right. So right now, I think we could probably start at 1 o'clock on Tuesday. I can do 2 of you on Tuesday afternoon. We can do the other one on Thursday, and we can see Elijah with the one on Thursday.
Okay, so either Scott and Elena or myself and Elena tomorrow is what you're saying?
Yep.
At 1?
Yeah, I think that's going to work. I'll double check and confirm that with an email.
Okay. Alrighty.
So,
Thanks.
yeah. And once we start, then we're going to know and all the other questions be answered.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really looking forward to seeing what everyone's stuff looks like. So the
All right.
evaluation is the most fun for me.
All right, that sounds good. So I'll double check the calendar, make sure I got everything in order, and I'll send you an email and just confirm what time exactly.
Okay. Sound
Sound good?
Thank you.
So we'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.